kids, Mrs. Muffin here, ready to make some art with you. Today we're going to make art inspired by the book Neither by Airlie Anderson. I might be saying that first name wrong, but I did my best. Before we jump into our lesson, we need to make sure we're mentally and physically ready. So the first thing I want you to do is take a few deep breaths. So I like to do that in the nose and out through the mouth. You could take 5 more, 2 more, 10 more, whatever you need so you feel a little more calm and collected and ready to make some art. You also might need to go to the bathroom, have a snack, maybe just do some stretching. Make sure we're ready to focus on art. If you're feeling wiggly, get that wiggle out. Or I guess during art, you could be wiggling a little bit while you draw. That's fine too. But make sure it's a wiggle that allows you to focus on your art while you're doing it. After we're mentally prepared by taking that deep breath and feeling a little more calm and ready for art, we need to make sure we have our supplies ready. Today, you're going to need a piece of paper. You can use a piece of paper like me. This is a thick piece of watercolor paper. But because we're learning at home, a lot of students have different supplies. You might have a notebook or a piece of computer paper. Either of those work. Whatever you have that's been approved and okay from your grown-ups or sent to you from your teacher at school, that's okay to use, but make sure it's paper that we're allowed to use. You also need a pencil. You can use any kind of pencil you want. It can be a mechanical pencil that has the eraser, or it can be a regular pencil. It's up to you and what supplies you have. If you have a regular pencil, you're also going to need an eraser. I always like to have a big one like this for my art lessons. Optionally, you can have a permanent marker like this to outline your design. This is totally optional. You do not have to have a permanent marker. I like to use them because they show up on the video a little bit better. Just make sure if you use a permanent marker, you have permission and that you're only drawing on your paper. And also, I only use the Sharpies for outlining projects. I don't color in my projects with them. And if you end up using watercolor paint, use a permanent marker. Otherwise, the water will make your marker spread out and get all oozy, and you might not want that. The last thing you're going to need is something to make your art colorful. Now, again, we're all at home. We have different supplies. I went ahead and used crayons, and I also used my watercolor paint and a brush. Some of you don't have watercolor paints at home, and that's totally okay too. You could use color pencils or markers. You could just use crayons. If you want to get really detailed with it, you could do a really detailed pencil drawing. That could be okay too. But make sure you're really putting effort into this. If you're spending so much time on the details with drawing it, you might not need all that color. But if you're having a more simple image, like my examples, you need some color to put that effort in there. Let's talk about the goal for this lesson. We're gonna start by reading a book, as I mentioned earlier, called Neither, and that's gonna tell us a little bit more about the topic of the lesson. And there's a lot of meaning you can take from this book. It can go in a lot of different directions, and we can talk about that more later. Some of you have been learning in your classes about something called a folk tale. Hopefully you know what that is. It's a story passed on by a group of people. It usually has a moral or a lesson. So this book is what I would call a modern folk tale. It was written in recent time. It wasn't written long ago, but it's a story that uses different animals and imagery and ideas and then teaches us a lesson or a moral. As I'm reading the story, I want you to look for patterns in the story, and I want you to make some predictions. While I'm reading it, I will stop and ask you, what do you think is going to happen here? And I want you to make predictions in your head about what will happen. Finally, we're going to make art inspired by the book. So as I'm reading it, I want you to look at the different characters and creatures and think about what kind of character or creature you're going to create for your art lesson. If you're watching this on Canvas, I'm about to read the whole story. If you are watching this on YouTube, you will need to find this book online. You could see if someone read it on YouTube. You could see if it's on an online library, or you can buy it. I really recommend it. It's a great book with beautiful illustrations, but I just try not to read the whole book on YouTube because sometimes the authors don't like that when you read their book without their permission. Neither by Airlie Anderson. I hope you liked the book Neither, and I hope it gave you some ideas for the kind of creature that you're going to create. For our art lesson, you're going to pick 2 creatures and combine them into a neither creature. In our lives, there are a lot of things that are neither. We, especially people, we don't always fit into one category or the other. We're not this or that. We're something different. We're unique. We're us. I'm not this or that. I'm Mrs. Muffin, and that's okay. I'm neither, and that's a-okay. There's lots of different versions of neither and this or that, and I hope it gets you thinking. Did your predictions come true? Were you right? Or did they turn out differently than you expected? Earlier I mentioned that this is a modern folktale. It had a story, and it's an idea that's been passed down between peoples, and then this author made pictures of it and wrote words with it and presented an idea to use students. And then at the end of the story, it had a moral or a lesson that hopefully we learned about how we need to be accepting. We shouldn't just say you're this or that. We need to include other people and realize that none of us are this or that. We're all a little bit neither, and we're all a little bit different. And that's a-okay. Now then, time to make sure, if you haven't already, that you have all your art supplies ready, and we're gonna start our art lesson. This was my first example. I made a half cat, half snake, and one thing I want you to notice is that I filled in the entire background. That's something that I really love in this book. Every page is filled in with pattern, or at least color. Pictures like this. Oh, so many creatures and colors. I think my other favorite page is this one. If you look, all of the creatures are super colorful, but up here at the top, there's lots of pattern. So keep that in mind when you create your neither creature. Okay kids, we're ready to work on our neither creature. My neither creature in my first example is a combination of a cat and a snake. You can choose any two creatures you want to combine. I say creatures, not animals, because I'm okay if you want to pick a dragon or a unicorn, or maybe some other creature that we don't typically think of when we list animals. It can be something made up or fun. That's totally fine with me. Some of the things we want to make sure we do when we create our project are fill up the whole page. We don't want to draw a little picture in the middle and then say we're done. We want to fill up the page with color and pattern and make it really fun. One of the things I really love about the book, Neither, is that the colorful illustrations fill up the whole page. When we look through the book and we get to the land where everyone's accepted, you can see on this page the pictures are colorful and the backgrounds are colorful, and even back here they filled it with fun different textures, swirls and lines and patterns. And I think that's part of what makes the book so wonderful, is that it is filled up with nice patterns. And here we have green grass, but at the top of the page you can see all these nice different patterns and different colors. And that's what inspired me when I made my sample here of my neither creature. I did all sorts of colorful patterns. The first thing I did, and it's the first thing I do with all of my papers, whether I'm at home or school, is your name, your teacher, and whatever date it is when you work on this project. Now that I've done that, I'm ready to go. Now, you've seen this sample. Let's move on to another sample and you can see how I created it. Because I already made a cat snake, I want to make some new creature. Before I make my new creature though, on the back I wrote my name, teacher, and the date. The back is also a great place to practice some different animals and shapes. You can do this on scrap paper, or if you're in a notebook on another page, but I like to use the back of my pictures to create practice sketches. So I did a cat snake, so I think this time I'm gonna do a dog bug. So thinking, okay, a dog head. There's lots of ways to draw dog heads, but I think I'm gonna do one from the side. It's got its ear. And then I'm thinking I'm gonna go with a ladybug. Ladybugs have big round bodies, wings. I kind of have the idea now. I feel comfortable flipping it over and starting my actual dog bug. I do it in pencil first so that I can change things as I go. You can go on the internet with your grown-ups' help and you can look up animals and creatures to combine for this lesson, if that helps you. And remember, I'm going to fill the background in. Now, I like to outline my pictures on these videos with a permanent marker because then it's easier to see the picture on the video, but also I think it makes it look nice. You absolutely do not have to outline your picture with a marker. If you do, make sure if you're going to use paint that you use a permanent marker. Otherwise, the water in the paint will make the marker smear everywhere. If you aren't going to use paint, you can use any kind of marker, any color, crayon, color pencil to outline your picture. For this project, I'm going to use crayons and watercolor paint. You can, as I mentioned earlier in the video, use watercolor paint, crayons, color pencils, markers, whatever you have to make your picture colorful. I'm even open if you want to draw a really detailed pencil drawing that's all just pencil and white. That's fine with me, but if you choose not to do color, you have to do a lot of detail with your pencil. That's kind of the rule. It's about effort. If you want to make it more simplified like mine, we need to use color and make it bright and colorful with all those patterns. If you want to spend a lot of time with the detail and drawing of your creature, I'm okay if it's not super colorful because you're still putting in a lot of effort either way. I don't color it in all the way because I'm going to go later with paint and fill in all those spots. So it's okay if you want to do it this way, or again, you could just use crayons, you could just use just paint, just markers. Remember, if you use markers or anything that's not permanent though, the paint will smear it. So just be careful with that. I'm going to use white on the eyes so that the paint doesn't go there. And I'm going to add some patterns in the background. White. That will hopefully be fun later when I paint it. Right now you might be like, why are you doing white? That's a waste of time. Oh, broke my crayon. Now you can use a larger brush if you have it, but I'm a-okay using the brush that is in my watercolor tray. Because we're at home, we're gonna have a lot of different supplies out there. Some students might have different watercolors or different brushes, or some of you might not have watercolors, a-okay. Use what you have to make your page colorful. you enjoyed today's art lesson based on the book Neither. Please take a picture and you share it with your gen ed teacher or send it to me. If you're on Canvas, you can email it to me and I can upload it to our school's art gallery on Padlet.com. And then you can put this somewhere and it'll be a nice reminder that it's okay that we're all different and unique and that we're made up of this and that. Have a great day, kids.